This man killed 10 million people, not with a tank, not with a gas chamber. He did it by convincing the world he was helping them. For 20 years, he was called a hero, while he was secretly running one of the most brutal systems in history. This is the moment one man decided to own a country, and how he got away with it. This is Infinite Turning Points. In 1884, the most powerful men in Europe sat in a room in Berlin. They had a map, a ruler, and a problem: how to take Africa without killing each other. But one man in that room wasn't representing a country. He was representing himself, King Leopold II of Belgium. He was a king with a small kingdom and a massive ego. He didn't want a colony for Belgium. He wanted a private estate. To get it, he told the world a story. He claimed he wanted to end the slave trade. He claimed he wanted to bring science and civilization. He called his organization the International African Association. It sounded like a non-profit. It was actually a corporation. The world gave him the Congo, a territory 76 times the size of Belgium. Leopold didn't just rule it, he owned it. For a few years, it looked like a standard colony. Then, the world changed. In 1888, John Boyd Dunlop invented the pneumatic rubber tire. Suddenly, the world was starving for rubber. Bicycles, cars, wiring, they all needed it. And the Congo was covered in wild rubber vines. Leopold realized he was sitting on the greatest fortune on Earth. But there was no infrastructure, no workers. So he created a system of labor that was actually a countdown to death. Every village was given a quota. If they didn't meet it, the force publique arrived. Leopold's private army didn't just kill. They engineered fear. Villages weren't just punished, they were controlled. Women and children were taken hostage and held in guarded compounds. Not temporarily, indefinitely. The message was simple: produce rubber or your family dies. Men were forced deep into the jungle. Not for hours, for days, sometimes weeks. They climbed vines, cut latex by hand, smeared it across their bodies, then peeled it off their skin once it hardened. This wasn't farming. It was extraction through exhaustion. And when they returned, the soldiers didn't ask how hard they tried. They measured results. If the quota wasn't met, the hostages were executed, not randomly, deliberately, publicly, so the next village would understand. But here's where the system becomes something else entirely. The soldiers had a problem. Bullets were expensive, and Leopold demanded accountability. No wasted ammunition. Every shot had to be justified. So he introduced a metric: proof. The proof was a human hand. Soldiers were required to cut off the right hand of every person they shot, not just as evidence of a kill, but as evidence the bullet had been used correctly. This system corrupted everything. If a soldier missed, he still needed a hand. So hands were taken from the living, from children, from hostages, from anyone. This wasn't chaos. It was accounting. A system where violence was tracked, verified, and incentivized. And as rubber exports increased, the population collapsed. Historians estimate that up to 10 million people died, not from one event, but from a chain reaction. Forced labor, starvation, disease, execution, social collapse. Entire regions emptied, entire communities disappeared. This wasn't a war, it was a machine. This was a silent genocide. No headlines, no broadcasts, no witnesses the world would listen to, because everything Leopold showed the world was carefully controlled, until one man noticed something small. Not a massacre, not a photograph, a pattern. A shipping clerk named E.D. Morel stood on a dock in Antwerp. Day after day, he watched ships arrive from the Congo, full of ivory, full of rubber, immense wealth flowing into Europe. Then he looked at what was going back. And something didn't make sense. There were no textiles, no tools, no goods you would expect in a trading relationship. Instead, crates of rifles, boxes of ammunition, military supplies. Morel didn't need access to the Congo. He didn't need eyewitness testimony. He had the data. And the math didn't lie. If goods are coming in, and nothing of value is going out, then this isn't trade, it's extraction. And if the only thing you're sending back is weapons, then those weapons are enforcing something. This is where everything changes. Morel realized something the world had missed. Leopold wasn't running a colony. He was running a closed system, a system where violence produced profit. And once Morel saw it, he couldn't unsee it. But here's the critical decision. He didn't report it quietly. He didn't send a letter to officials. He went public. He launched one of the first global human rights campaigns in modern history. Newspapers, speeches, pamphlets, relentless exposure. And then something new entered the story. Something that changed everything. The camera. Missionaries began documenting what they saw. Children with missing hands, men with severed limbs, families destroyed. For the first time, the world could see the system, not just hear about it, and the narrative collapsed. Leopold was no longer the humanitarian king. He was something else entirely. And once the images spread, the lie couldn't hold. By 1908, the pressure was too much. International outrage had reached a tipping point. Governments could no longer ignore it. Public opinion had shifted. Leopold was forced to give up control. The Congo was transferred to the Belgian state. But look closer. This wasn't justice. It was containment. Before handing it over, Leopold ordered the destruction of records, archives burned, documents erased, evidence removed. He reportedly said, "I will give them my Congo, but they have no right to know what I did there." Think about that. Even at the end, the priority wasn't accountability. It was control of the story. And then, something even more unsettling happened. Leopold walked away. He died, one of the richest men in Europe. He was never tried, never imprisoned, never formally held accountable. He never even set foot in the Congo. Meanwhile, the consequences didn't end. The population collapse reshaped the region for generations. Social structures were destroyed, economic systems distorted, trust erased. And the extraction model didn't disappear. It evolved. The Congo remained a resource engine. But now under different management. This is the part history often skips. The violence didn't end. It changed form. Today, we like to think history is driven by events, wars, treaties, revolutions. But the Congo heist tells a different story. It tells us that history can be shaped by narrative, by belief, by a lie told convincingly enough that no one looks behind it. Leopold didn't just steal a country. He built a story the world wanted to believe. And while the world believed it, millions died. By the time the truth surfaced, the system had already done its work. The hands had already been taken. If you want to understand how the world we live in was shaped, one decision at a time, subscribe to Infinite Turning Points.